Hey guys, Alex from BoardGameCo over here, and it's going to cut to another video in a second, but I'm adding this to that video because I filmed that video and now I'm doing this video. Basically, I thought this was worth noting, like really worth noting, but Luke from AEG, Luke is the one who is managing the Kickstarter project. We started a dialogue, and after my video, we started a dialogue, and he offered to do an interview about the AEG Kickstarter, about different factors and to address some of the concerns brought up. Now, I want to be very clear, given the timing, he can't do it before the Kickstarter ends. So, meaning today he has like 4 hours of live streams or whatever, and there's no way we can get that done before the Kickstarter ends. But sometime in the next few weeks or whenever he has a chance, ideally he and I will do a little interview and I'll put it up on the channel. It will hopefully be, it'll be my first interview on the channel, and I think it's a fun topic to talk about. And I thought that's worth noting because in the end of the next video that you're about to see right after this, I say that I haven't changed my mind and I'm still keeping my pledge canceled, but I don't know yet now. Now I'm not sure because honestly, like I said in that video, which will come up in a second, like I said there, I like the game and I want in, and this might be the excuse I need to say, hey, it's a gesture of goodwill and maybe I'll hop on. I haven't decided, and I don't want to decide in the next 90 seconds. I'm doing this right away so I can add this to the video right now. I'm filming this, half an hour before a video is supposed to go live, but basically, I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing right now. I'm stuck in that limbo zone, and we'll find out, I guess. But I just want to let you know that you can expect that in case that is affecting your decision, or in case you want to do one of those, back for the pledge manager access or whatnot. To be clear, I don't think and don't expect any changes to any pricing of any kind whatsoever. It's not about that. It's just about the conversation, and hopefully it'll be a fun one. But that being said, in about 3, 2, 1, you'll say, "Hi, Alex from BoardGameCo," and I'll see you later. Hey, it's Alex Rack from BoardGameCo, and this is a video topic that I've had in my list of topics for a while, but specifically because of the Dead Reckoning video that I put out the other day, as well as, primarily because of that video, I decided to move it up and do it today. Now, I'll note that I do have a schedule of videos in which when I'll do what video throughout the week, and that whole schedule this week has been completely out the window with all the stuff going on, and so we'll see how it plays out. I moved around some videos, so if I reference any particular days in any of these videos, it is what it is. It might be a little off. But the topic is, as you already know because you clicked on this, is you can't make everyone happy. You just can't. And that's not news to anyone here. And it's not a complaint either. It's just an interesting aspect of just life to take into account, that no matter what you do, no matter what compromises you make, no matter what stance you take, there are always people who will be left out, people who were pushed aside by whatever decision that was made. Now, to give some random examples, not random, specifically picked examples. I'll just go through a quick handful and then we'll dive down more into this. But to give you one example, on the Dead Reckoning Kickstarter, I saw a comment from somebody that, Alex thinks every Kickstarter is overpriced, which I do hear that. But then on comments on my own videos, I'll get comments along the lines of, not from everyone, but I'll get comments here and there of, oh, you like too many of the Kickstarters and you say too many Kickstarters are a good value. Again, you can't make everyone happy. You'll have people on both sides who feel you're being too strict or not strict enough. And again, not a complaint, just giving you context. Second example would be that companies, and this is, I guess, specifically related to All Direct Entertainment Group, to AEG, Dead Reckoning, but any company really, companies want their games to be successful. I think that's clear. And companies would ideally love to get their hands into as many people's, gaming shelves as possible, because that represents another buyer, represents another person who's going to buy the expansion, who's going to follow the company. There's obviously a motivation to get your games wherever you can go. But you have to factor in the costs of running a business, the cost of production. You have to factor that all in. And I'm not saying companies don't want a level of profit. Of course they do. They want a level of profit. They exist for a reason. But again, that aspect of no matter what you do, you're juggling multiple facets of how to make everyone happy. Yourself, your shareholders, your employees, your customers. Exclusives versus non-exclusives. And this is something we talk a lot about in videos, but as someone who looks for the value proposition in Kickstarters, I want exclusives. I want there to be reasons to back a game, whether that's price point, whether that's all the extras, but then someone down the road who tries to pick up whatever game that had all these extras and can't get it, they're missing out. You can make one person happy, but you can't make the other one happy at the same time. Or you could produce the exact same copy at the exact same price, but then you're not really giving the Kickstarter backer a reason to back it, and now they're unhappy. Again, no matter what you do, someone's unhappy. Another example would be that, and this is something we've talked about in the past about this channel, where I'm simultaneously, I feel like I'm always in the middle. I feel like there are times where I am taking the backer side, and I'm on the consumer side, and I'm all pro-consumer. And then there's times I put out videos where I talk about the companies and how you should be more sensitive to the people behind the companies. And again, I end up in the middle, that I care about the publishers, I care about the consumers, I care about the backers, and I kind of just want, you know, everyone to be happy. But you can't get that. You can't have that. And this is something that, I mean, it's going to be very relevant as time goes on in terms of what I do on this channel, but that first time that I have to release a negative review of a game that I've played, it's not going to be fun for me. And nothing to do with money. I know people talk about money. It's nothing to do with money. It's the idea that, thankfully, and thanks to you guys, I mean, this channel has seen a tremendous amount of growth. This channel has seen a tremendous amount of a following, and I never want to dismiss my own opinion. I don't want to dismiss the potential ramifications that my opinion can have. And the idea that my opinion can possibly lead to a Kickstarter not doing as well as it should to... I'm not as worried about Alderac. I'm not as worried about Dead Reckoning. They're doing fairly well. I mean, pretty darn well. Their highest Kickstarter ever. But a smaller publisher who doesn't necessarily have that weight to keep it moving, the idea that I might say something that tanks their Kickstarter, it hurts me. It genuinely hurts me. And again, nothing to do with money. The bias is there 100%, but the bias has to do with being a human being and caring about someone's project. But the flip side is, I care about you guys too. I'd be doing a disservice not to give you my opinion. So no matter what I do, someone loses out. And that puts me in a very difficult position to be in. Again, not complaining. Very happy with this whole mini YouTube career thing going on. But it's a degree of responsibility that I do not take lightly. And so yes, I will get pushback from the viewers as to, you aren't critical enough. I'll get pushback from publishers, or, you know, this guy's ripping apart the game. I will give my honest opinion wherever and whenever I can, and I guarantee you I will always feel bad about both sides of that opinion that's hurting out, that's losing out, hurting, whatever. Another example would be late pledges, and this is actually something I plan on talking about in a full dedicated video all on its own, but late pledges are another area you can't make people happy. When you offer late pledges at a discounted, late pledges at an increased price, what you are doing is you are rewarding the people who backed your game, but then someone else comes into that late pledge and says, well, I'm not interested, I have to pay more. I don't want to pay more. That's not fair. But again, either way, you're making someone unhappy. On the one hand, the person who's coming in later, it doesn't really cost the publisher anything more. Why should it cost more? Make that guy happy. Give it to them at the same price. On the other hand, then the Kickstarter backers have no reason to not wait for the late pledge. So again, no matter what you do, you always have to choose between which party you're making happy, which party you aren't. And that's true of everything. It's true on the smallest scale of board games. It's true in game night. Another great example, this wasn't on my list actually, I'm coming up with this one now. But another great example is if you have that difficult person at game night who's always, let's use downtime as an example. If you have a player at game night who notoriously is much longer in taking his turns, you can exclude that person, you can exclude him or her from game night in order to improve the experience for everyone else there, or you can make them feel included. Either way, forget yourself. I'm not even talking about being selfish, but either way, you have to choose between different people's levels of happiness. You have to choose between who you are accommodating and who you're not. And that's difficult. That's a degree of ownership we always have in our lives of making those choices. And again, I'm not talking about selfishness. Selfishness is a different category in and of itself. I'm talking about choosing between people that aren't yourself when you have to make those choices. And it's difficult. Now, you shouldn't try. You shouldn't try to make people happy. You should try to make people happy. You shouldn't try to make everyone happy. That's a battle that you're bound to lose. You're going to lose that battle. That's not even a question. Now, don't get me wrong. I still do, but I will fail. Every time. I don't mind if people disagree with me, to be very clear. Disagreement is totally fine. I welcome disagreement. Disagreement is not making people happy. We can have a difference of opinion. Even in this conversation, we can have a difference of opinion, and that's fine. But I still want you to be happy. I still want you to like me. I guess maybe that part is selfish, but I want everyone to be happy regardless of the level of agreement or disagreement. Now, this might be a bad I don't know, this might be a bad goal to have as a YouTuber, as someone who's giving their opinion on a public platform. The idea of wanting to make everyone happy and wanting to always have people be, I don't know, just positive. It might be a bad decision to be in this space while having that goal. But I still will. It is what it is. And that's why you'll see me put out topics or conversations that are just catering to a single opinion at times because gosh darn it, that person, I need them to understand where I'm coming from. Again, not agree or disagree, but understand where I'm coming from, understand my stance. And so even though 95% of you might agree with me on something, you'll find that at times I respond to even the 1% because I care too much when I shouldn't. I mean, not I shouldn't, I guess, but I have to understand that it's a losing battle. One of my favorite pictures online ever, I'll link to it down below, is from XKCD, where it's a picture of someone, sitting in front of a computer, and someone else says, and his wife says, honey, it's time to come to bed, and he's like, I can't, I'm busy. She's like, what's wrong? He's like, someone is wrong on the internet. It's a really funny picture, it really is. It's the idea that on this internet that we all live on, you're not going to make everyone happy, you're not going to get everyone to agree. And so what's the takeaway here? Why am I doing this video? What's the point? So they say on YouTube that to have a successful YouTube channel, your content has to either inform or entertain. That's the way to be successful on YouTube, according to all the blogs I read when I started a channel. And I think there's a third option. Although it does take time, that third option. And that third option is your content should either inform, entertain, or engage. I like to think that if you're someone who's been watching my channel regularly, I'd like to think that there's a degree of relationship here. And I'm not making any illusions. Obviously, if I don't know you, if I haven't interacted with you in the comments in some way, obviously at the end of the day, we're to a degree strangers. But I'd like to think there's a little more. That's why I try to respond to almost every single comment I can. I mean, it's hard. I try to keep up when I can. But I like to engage. I like to be a part of the conversation with all of you. I like to have this miniature relationship going on. And I think that content can inform, entertain, or just engage. Although, that cute little thing aside, there is a point. There is a point to this video. And the point is that I'm a big fan of being utilitarian. The greatest good for the greatest number of people. And that will often be my takeaway in the decisions I make in life. That it's not that when I have to choose between who to make happy, it's going to be the greatest good for the greatest number of people, obviously biased towards just what I believe is true, transparency or whatnot. And I'm not going to choose to make one party happy if it involves lying, but there is that concept. And so when making choices, feedback is important. I'm not in any way saying not to give feedback. Not to myself, not to others. I'm not saying that at all. I think feedback is essential because feedback helps guide that greater good concept. If I have enough people commenting on my video that they want to see a change, that something be done differently, I'm not just going to immediately change something, but I will take it into account. It helps guide my decision when it comes time to making multiple people happy. When you are on a Kickstarter page and you want a change, I think feedback is essential because it helps that publisher decide what to do differently. It helps the publisher to decide, okay, great, I have a certain degree of people here that want something done differently. Am I going to accommodate that or not? What am I going to do about that? Feedback is essential. Now, how you deliver feedback is equally essential because the more offensive you are, the more just it has to be a certain way you are, the less people will listen to you. And that's for two reasons. The first is that when people are backed into a corner, they tend to act like they are backed into a corner. They aren't in a rush to accommodate your requests. They might even lash out at you. You don't want to ever push someone in a corner. You should be respectful with your feedback. And the second reason, it just makes you look better. It makes you look like your feedback is coming from a place of thought and opinion as opposed to, I want this. Hopefully. Not always. There's no guarantee, by the way, that feedback delivered well will result in the decision you want. But it certainly will help. If I get a comment on my video saying, I can't believe you did something that way, that really sucks, I'm going to just hit delete. I mean, I've only ever deleted one comment, by the way. One time. But still, I'll hit delete on that one. Versus, if you say, hey, please improve this, please adjust that, or here's why I think you should do that, I'll certainly take it more into account because it sounds well-reasoned. So feedback is important to myself and others, wherever. It doesn't have to be just myself as a content creator, whatever other content creators you like. It doesn't have to be the publisher or the Kickstarter. In any and all areas of your life, respectfully delivered feedback is important because it helps guide you towards the outcome you want, and it's helpful for the other person because it helps them understand what they might need to do better. And that's important. But also take into account that Kickstarter is a terrible platform for feedback to begin with. Kickstarter is a bad platform for pivoting because of the short nature of what Kickstarter is. Kickstarter is essentially a pre-order platform. Again, we like to pretend it's not sometimes, but it is effectively a pre-order platform. They are coming to market, or at least board games. I'm talking about board games here. But they're coming to market to do well on Kickstarter as a board game company. You have to come to market with a product that is ready and thought out. And I'm not saying you can't change things, but you want those changes to be as least impactful to the desired product as you can. And so when you have feedback being delivered in a short window, you might make promises you can't follow through on. You might make changes that aren't right for you as a company. You might make changes that result in potential failure or delays or just issues with the final product. Remember that Kickstarter as a platform for feedback is problematic because you are taking a finished product and trying to pivot it in some way. Although if it's related to price, then it's not so much finished products, but rather just the nature of the economic decision you have to make. You're asking for changes in real time to the pricing strategy of a company. I'm not saying don't ask for it. I'm just saying understand the limitations of feedback as a platform for feedback. So let's give a few examples here. Perseverance Castaway Chronicles is a Kickstarter that actually did a lot with their feedback. They just finished, they did a great job, and they had a lot of pushback on a few different points. The lack of dinosaur sculpts, the lack of soldier miniatures, and they accommodated those requests, and hopefully that works out well. But also keep in mind that Monumental accommodated backer feedback on, adding a version to the most recent campaign. They had a miniature version, and the previous campaign they had a chip version with little discs instead of miniatures. And a ton of people, well, I don't know if it was a ton, but people pushed back and fought back against the fact that there should be a chip version so that you can upgrade your version or this or that, and they did it. And they had like 14 backers or something. I don't remember where it finalized, but they did not have a lot of people choosing that. It was a very vocal minority that they were catering to, and that's not great for them. I guess it's great for those 14 people, but it's not a realistically smart decision to make as a company. Other people are going to be absorbing, if they follow through with that, then everyone else collectively is effectively absorbing the costs of accommodating 14 people. Again, the greatest amount of good for the greatest number of people is something to consider. And then Massive Darkness 2. Well, Massive Darkness, not Massive Darkness 2. Massive Darkness, which will be launching this Tuesday, and I am so excited. But Massive Darkness, the original game, got hit with tons of critical feedback. Why? Because they needed a campaign mode. This is back before every game and their mother was doing a campaign mode, and so I guess back then it was something people clamored for. And they added it, doing the Kickstarter. And it wasn't great. Shocking. Surprise. They added a full new mode to a finished product. They tried rebalancing the game to a finished product, and it didn't work out the way backers expected or wanted. And then the game got panned, not totally panned, but panned for the campaign mode. That's not a good platform for feedback. You have to understand, both as a consumer, when your feedback is possibly too late, sad as it may be, as well as a publisher, when to not listen to the public, to the audience. And Massive Darkness 2, though, is coming out with a campaign mode because they've spent years developing it. It's a whole different conversation. And I love, by the way, how they keep joking that the campaign mode is perfect the way it is and they're not changing anything. In every interview, every article, they keep making that joke, which I still find funny every time I see it. But the point is that, yes, Massive Darkness 2 will have it because they are incorporating it properly into a feedback cycle that makes sense for a board game. Versus in the Kickstarter, it wasn't a good time. Dead Reckoning. Dead Reckoning adjusted to the feedback given by the audience, given by the backers, and added a gameplay pledge. And keep in mind, by the way, and I've talked about this in my Daimyo Kickstarter coverage, that the more changes you make to pledge levels, the more you are running the risk of different costs being added. When you are using a Kickstarter fulfillment company, there are costs to the more customization, the more different SKUs you are. SKUs is a standard stock keeping unit, I think it is. I think it's a stock keeping unit is what a SKU stands for. But the idea is you can pick off this bundle from the shelf, that's one SKU. You can pick off the all-in bundle, that's another SKU. You can pick up the sleeve, that's another SKU. Everything that you are adding that has to be handled has a cost. And so every pledge level that they adjust has a cost. And I'm not saying they shouldn't incorporate new pledge levels, but I'm saying that understand that the requests being given by myself, by others, are not always so simple to give. And that aspect is kind of why I'm doing this video, why I decided to do this video today, because my video the other day in Dead Reckoning, Why the Outrage, was a video that I put up because primarily because for myself, I was curious why I was more bothered by Dead Reckoning compared to other campaigns that would be giving me less gameplay for a lot of money and I'd be more fine with it. And so I put it up to try to capture the feelings involved. Not the monetary value, not the value proposition, but the feelings involved. And I think I did a decent job at it, but I also had a lot of comments all over the place saying, drop your pledge, cancel your do this, whatever. And I had one person say, like, I hope someone loses their job, and that's not my goal in the slightest. I am a firm believer that if you are happy with Dead Reckoning, you should back it. If you are upset with Dead Reckoning and complaining, you should either stop complaining or possibly consider not backing, or at least complain respectfully. I mean, but in some way have an understanding of what it means. I think people should do what they want to do. The video was in no way meant to say, hey, cancel your Kickstarter pledge on Dead Reckoning. And at the same time, it was literally the fastest growing video I have had in my 7 months on YouTube. It was the video that grew the fastest. I got to 7,000 views in a matter of hours, or I think it's 8 hours. I got to 7,000 views or whatever it was, which most of my videos don't hit 7,000 views at all. And so I feel bad. I feel bad that perhaps my message was taken a little too harshly. My message was for myself. I was bothered, and I stand by everything I said, by the way. This is not in any way a statement of taking back that I do feel the expectations were mismanaged. I do feel that way. But I also feel that the gameplay value proposition on the table is not bad. It really isn't. If you were just saying, hey, this is Dead Reckoning, it's $180, do you want this, and here's all the stuff you get, I would just go with yes. There are feelings behind it. There are aspects of feeling like I'm being pushed to buy things I don't care about because it's what makes sense, or feeling like I thought I'd be getting more. Those are certainly feelings I do have, and those are opinions that I stand by. But I want to be very clear that I think Dead Reckoning is an excellent game. And it is easier for me to pass on it, knowing full well that I run a used board game store. I am more likely to see Dead Reckoning come through my hands, and it is a game that I guarantee you I will get Dead Reckoning, even if I have to pay more than Alderac is asking for it. Even if I have to pay more than AEG is asking, I will get it. Now, I don't believe I will have to pay more. I think the value is pretty much where it will be, where it should be. I don't think this is a game that's going to completely blow up and be worth, 30, 40, 50, $100 more than what you pay for it. I also don't think it'll be worth less, significantly less at least. I think that whatever the value proposition is, whatever the pledge level you are backing is, it'll probably hold its value somewhere in that range, give or take 15, 20%. It's hard to know because it's a good game, but I do think it's overpriced for the content you are getting, not taking into account manufacturing costs. I know those clear sleeves are expensive. I'm not taking into account that. Compared to some other experiences, I think it's potentially overpriced in the gameplay experience, but I think it's an incredible game, which means the value question really comes down to how many others think it's an incredible game. And there will almost certainly be another Kickstarter down the road, so that's a factor as well. But I guess this slightly rambling ending to my whole initial build-up is, I think Dead Reckoning is an excellent game. I think if you want it, you should probably back it. Probably. I think if you're on the fence of how much it costs, you have to make a decision, whatever that decision might be. But understand that if you dropped your pledge because of some form of blackmail, of this will get AEG to change their ways, understand that we're down to the final hours, and that's probably not happening at this point. They've made multiple statements at this point that the costs aren't changing, additional pledge levels aren't changing, so if you were taking a stance to get them to change, that probably won't happen. And you might be denying yourself a good game along the way, because I've seen a whole bunch of comments in the video saying, I dropped AEG and now I'm backing this game instead, and I'm like, oh my gosh, no you shouldn't. Dead Reckoning was excellent, and I think it's a much better deal. Am I frustrated at the way the campaign was run? A little, yeah. I think it could have been handled. And again, it's easy to be a critic. It is easy to be a critic. It is much harder to be on the inside. But I think, yeah, I'm a little frustrated. And I think it could have been run better from the stance of maybe it's, hindsight, maybe it's just I have a different perspective because I'm more of a backer than I am as a Kickstarter creator. But yeah, that's true. But I do think it was a great game too. And I know, speaking of making everyone happy, I know there will be those who believe or say, or both, that I'm tuning back my approach. I'm taking a step back, and I'm being too nice and too pleasant to AEG, and that's possible. Yeah, I told you, I feel bad. I have guilt, okay? It's a big Jewish thing. It's not just a Jewish thing, but it's a big Jewish thing to have a lot of guilt. It's built into us, and I have that. But I'm not actually backing Dead Reckoning. I'm not backing it right now, just to be clear. I'm not changing that. But I just wanted to be clear that I think it's a great game. I think it's a good, not a good price, but a decent price for the game you're getting. And I think if you back it, you'll probably enjoy it. I also think if you dropped your pledge and you're no longer regretting it, you should stick with that decision too. I think if you are regretting it, go ahead and back it. That's basically it. You can't make everyone happy, but I sure as hell will try. Until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from BoardGameCo, and I hope you have a good one.